Have y'all ever thought about what it's like to die? Like, I think everyone has sat in their classroom thinking about this at some point. Not because you want to, but like it's interesting, right? Like, I for sure hope that I get to be old and die in a natural way, rather than some of the horrifying deaths that I'm gonna show you guys today. That's right, guys. Today I'm gonna be showing you some of the worst and most horrible ways that people have died. I've seen everything from a guy being boiled alive like a crab, to people getting crushed in elevators. Ouch. So guys, to make sure you live a long and peaceful life, make sure you smash that like and subscribe button. Have y'all ever made seafood? Well, if you have, you probably know that seafood has to be boiled alive. Yeah, it just seems so cruel and unnecessary to boil an animal alive. But apparently, you can get really bad food poisoning if you don't cook them alive. Well, in this first incident, a human got cooked just like your seafood. That's right, boiled alive. Let's find out how this happened.
He was knocked into the open manhole and fell 15 feet, but the tunnel was filled with boiling water and steam from a leaking pipe. The manhole was supposed to be covered with a vent stack, but it had somehow been moved, and the man fell straight into the boiling water. 60% of his body was burned, and hours passed before it was safe enough to get him out. Unfortunately, he died from the burns, and his neighbor was arrested for second-degree murder.
Oh my god, how is that not the worst death possible? Is it even possible to have deaths that are worse than this later in the video? Like, look at his body. He looks like a half-eaten chicken leg. Like, imagine your lower body just boiling while trying to keep your head afloat. And guys, the worst part about this death is that getting boiled doesn't destroy your nerves the same way getting burned does. And this means that you can feel the pain throughout the whole process. Yeah, this is way worse than getting burned. But what do you guys think he did to make the neighbor push him into that hole? I definitely think that that neighbor should be in jail. But I'm kinda interested in what led up to this. Alright, next, we've just seen a man getting boiled, which is probably the hottest way to die. But this next one is probably the coldest way to die, ever. Not cold as in badass, or cold as in frozen. Yeah, not the Elsa and Anna Frozen movie. I mean literally ice cube cold frozen. Do you have snow where you live, guys? I live in Denmark, and there's basically snow every winter. It's always fun to go outside and play in the snow. You can build a snow fort, a snowman, throw snowballs at random people. Alright, that was a joke, don't do that. People will get mad. But guys, playing in the snow is supposed to be fun and harmless. But for these two young boys, it turned out to be deadly. Check it out.
This is the snow incident, one of the worst ways somebody has ever died, explained. This is 12-year-old Josh Demarest. One day, Josh was outside playing with his 12-year-old friend Tyler. It was a snowy day, and as we all did when we were younger, they decided to build a snow fort. And many witnesses saw them playing in the snow. And then they both went missing. Nobody could find them anywhere. So the police were called, and they began to search the area. They used canine dogs to try and get the scent of the young boys. They then found footprints leading to a particular snow pile. And when they got to that snow pile, they saw a sled sticking out of it. So everybody at the scene began digging crazy at the snow pile. Everybody was completely freaking out, thinking the worst, and the worst happened. The snow was tightly packed, but they eventually found Josh and Tyler. Both of them were completely buried in the snow, and then they were taken to the hospital. Tyler did have hypothermia, but he did survive. But sadly, Joshua would die. So what happened? Well, when the two boys were building their snow fort, they heard a dump truck backing up, making that beeping noise over and over. And Tyler said at that point, everything just went completely black. The drivers of the truck were working on this snow pile that the boys were at, but they never even saw them playing. So they were buried alive under several feet of tightly packed snow. Tyler was able to find a small air pocket, which is how he survived. But unfortunately, Joshua was buried face down. And they were buried underneath the snow pile for 3 whole hours. Joshua's mother was not in town when he died, because her mother, Joshua's grandmother, died that same exact day.
No, that's so sad. Imagine that you're just chilling in your little igloo, and then it collapses, and you get like 1,000 pounds of snow on you. Like, if that was me, I'd probably get squished into a pancake. Like, no joke, guys. You might think snow can't weigh that much, but when it gets compressed, and there isn't any space for air in the snow, it can get just as heavy as like a big rock on top of you. And like, the worst part is, no one could hear them scream. And they couldn't move at all because all their bones got broken instantly. Rest in peace to these kids. Alright guys, speaking of getting crushed, I bet you've already had some sketchy episodes with elevators. Like when I was little, I always was afraid of getting crushed by the elevator doors closing, or like getting stuck without people being able to help you. Well, in this next incident, someone got crushed by the elevator, but not by the doors. Watch this.
This is definitely one of the worst ways to die. On August 23rd, 2019, a 30-year-old man named Sam Weisburn was trying to exit his apartment in the 23-story Manhattan Promenade Tower in New York by taking the elevator. Inside the elevator was Sam and 6 other occupants, and when the lift reached the lobby, that was when the nightmare began. The elevator door opens into the lobby and a man wearing a backpack emerges out first. Then Sam tried to exit the elevator, but as soon as he had half of his body out, the elevator suddenly started to plunge downwards like a stone, trapping him between the elevator and the shaft wall. Sam struggled immensely to get out, but ultimately the elevator overpowered him and crushed him all the way down to the basement level. Firefighters immediately came onto the scene and were able to rescue the 5 other occupants, but unfortunately for Sam, he was found dead, leaving many people to be afraid of elevators.
Ouch, ouch, ouch. Being crushed to death must be so scary. And like, I also feel bad for the 5 other people. Like, imagine they had to be stuck and fight an elevator with this guy who's getting crushed to death. And his organs and blood is just spinning out everywhere. I'll be so traumatized. But man, that guy in the backpack was really lucky. Give me an idea for the word of the day, guys. Comment elevator man in the comments below. Let's confuse the other people that haven't watched until this point. Alright, this next death is probably the weirdest execution method ever invented. Yep, back in the days, people got really creative with ways to execute criminals. Y'all, have you ever been to the playground in the summer? And like, you know those middle slides that get super hot in the summer? Like, I had one of those at my local playground. And they got so hot that you could fry an egg on it. Well, imagine that, but like shaped like an animal. A bull to be exact. People used a bull statue made of bronze and stuffed people inside to cook them to death. Y'all, you won't even believe this stuff used to be a thing after you've seen it. Take a look.
This is one of the worst execution methods humanity has ever seen. A torture device crafted entirely made of bronze was shaped like a life-size bull, hollow on the inside. It had a side door through which the victim was locked inside. Once the door was sealed, a fire was lit beneath the bull, causing the metal to gradually heat up until it became incandescent. As the internal temperature rose, the person trapped inside began to be baked alive. Legend says that if you watch even for a second, you must immediately comment your name because this video is tied to a real death. The victim's screams of agony passed through specially designed tubes in the bull's head. Instead of simple human cries, the sound came out transformed into a high-pitched bellow, perfectly imitating the moo of a real bull. This macabre illusion had only one purpose: to entertain the spectators by turning human suffering into a monstrous sound spectacle. Over time, the bronze bull became synonymous with the most extreme forms of human cruelty.
Oh my god, that's horrible. How do you even think of this? But guys, I did some research, and the guy who invented this showed it to the country's king, and the king told him to be the first test person. Yeah, he just basically said, "Here, my king, I've made a very painful torture killing machine." And the king answered, "Alright, you're gonna be the first victim. Let's try this out by cooking you first." Alright, maybe my version is a bit unserious, but that's essentially what happened. People must have been so bored back in the day to watch someone scream in agony for entertainment. Although, I am kinda curious on how it would sound with that horn attachment. Maybe it really sounds like a cow. Alright, we've seen a lot of really painful deaths so far, but what if this pain was just imaginary? Like, you know when you stub your toe or something, but someone makes a joke about it, so you stop thinking about it? Then it doesn't hurt that much anymore, right? It's like thinking about the injury makes it 10 times worse. This is actually proven, and it goes way farther than that. Apparently, if you think you've been killed or something is definitely going to kill you, that can just happen without anything actually hurting you. Like just thinking about it kills you. I'm serious, guys. Check this out.
When a prisoner was sentenced to death, a group of scientists saw an opportunity for a shocking experiment. They wanted to test just how powerful the human mind is. The prisoner was told his execution method had changed. Instead of being hanged, he would die from a deadly king cobra bite. He was strapped to a chair, shown the snake, and was immediately blindfolded, anxious for his fate. He felt the sharp bite, and within minutes, he was dead. But the snake never bit him. The scientists had only pricked his skin with 2 needles, mimicking a real bite. Yet, when doctors examined his body, they found the same toxic substances found in snakebite victims. The mystery of how powerful the placebo effect is, why?
That's just crazy. I would have never thought that something like this was even possible. I feel like this has such scary implications. This is actually a real studied thing, guys. It's the nocebo effect. It's like the opposite of the placebo effect, where instead of thinking you've gotten treatment, you get better, you actually think you've gotten worse, so you actually get sicker. Like, if this works, I just think about all the deaths that could have been prevented just by thinking differently. Like, imagine you get a cold and you just die from it because you'd think you're going to. That's why y'all gotta keep fighting for life, no matter what happens. Okay, for this next incident, my fellow claustrophobic people, y'all should probably close your eyes and ears. This next incident is seriously horrifying. Have y'all ever been locked out of your house? I sure have, but lucky for me, we had a warm shed that was always open. So I'd just sit in there until my parents came home. But that might not be a possibility for everyone, especially not if you live alone in an apartment. And do you know what else apartments have? Garbage chutes. They're like tubes where you throw your garbage in, because you don't want to go down 24 stories each time your garbage bag fills up. You better hope you don't somehow get into it and slide down. That might be what happened in the next video, I don't know. Enough yapping, just watch this.
She tried to climb onto her balcony after locking herself out, but as she stepped onto the lid to the building's garbage chute, it gave way. She plummeted 30 feet straight down before hitting the bottom of the chute. For over an hour, she was trapped with severe injuries to her head and back. Rescuers finally pulled her, and somehow she was still conscious. She flipped off TV cameras as she was lifted to the ambulance.
Why would she flip off the cameras? That literally saved her. She could have died in there. I wouldn't have survived 1 second down there. I would have just passed away from the fear alone. Like, being stuck in a cramped tube is probably my worst fear. Y'all, this next one is pretty similar to the previous one. So if you have claustrophobia, skip ahead. Have you all ever been to a water park? I love water parks. Nothing can replace those water slides for me, not even roller coasters. Water slides are just so fun in my opinion. There's one type of water slide that I would never go into though. That being the ones where you stand trapped in a tube and then the ground below you just disappears. If y'all have ever tried one of those, you're really brave. Anyways, this next video shows what happens if one of those falling slides were to malfunction. Watch this, guys.
He slid down the inside of the support pipe after climbing to the top of a water slide in the dark. But it was too narrow for his body to move, and he became trapped inside. He screamed for help until someone finally heard him. Rescuers worked for hours to take apart the slide and reach him, hoping he was alive. But the man had suffocated inside the pipe and died.
No way, why would he go in there? Or more like, how did he get in there? That looks like such a difficult climb. I can't imagine being in there screaming for my life. Maybe that's where he died. He just used up all the oxygen for screaming. But yeah, suffocating on my own exhalations like that is probably not very fun. At least, a slow suffocation like that is not as painful as many of the other deaths we've covered. And Layla Beans, if you thought boiling alive was bad, you gotta see this next one. In bakeries, they make a lot of bread. So to keep prices down and to make as much bread as possible, they have room-sized ovens. Like, imagine those freezer rooms you see in movies, but an oven. And y'all, it's supposed to be impossible to get stuck inside these, for all these reasons. But somehow, the impossible happened.
She walked into the huge industrial oven while working late in the bakery. Now somehow, the door shut behind her and locked, trapping her inside. The oven then mysteriously began to heat up, quickly reaching over 500 degrees. Once her coworkers finally noticed, hours had passed, and the woman had been baked alive. Now, some people think the oven broke, resulting in a terrible accident, but others believe someone did it on purpose.
That's so bad. Imagine just slowly getting cooked and turning into a human raisin. Y'all, at this point, I don't even know what will be the worst of all these ways to die. But guys, that was not an accident. There's no way something like that just breaks randomly. Something cannot be that easily broken when it's a human-sized oven. Like, there's just no way. Alright, Vanilla Beans, that was a roller coaster of emotions, huh? I hope y'all didn't get too frightened by what I showed you in the studio. Hope y'all learned something new though. Anyways, happy Halloween, smash that like button, subscribe, and as always, stay safe.